Namaste. Speaking with you from Southern California, Long Beach, on a crisp, cool, beautiful evening. A question came in to be addressed for satsang, and the question is, why is it that I have trouble with being silent? I try with all that I am to do so, but it's hard to do it for a long time. What can I do to stop and be in silence? Atma Prem. Why be silent? What is the need for being in silence? So first of all, one might ask oneself that question. Usually when we approach a particular way of being, it's because we're not satisfied with what's already present. It's already here. For example, the need to be in silence. And the popular assumption that stopping and being in silence is going to bring one some sort of insight, some sort of peace, some sort of resolution, or some sort of ecstatic, blissful experience. Not that those things don't happen. We've all experienced at one time or another the resonation of true being, which has nothing to do with what we're calling it. It's not silence, it's not awareness, it's not true being. Those are words pointing to who we are, which needs no pointing. So let's go back to this question. I try with all that I am to do so, but it's hard to do it for a long period. Well, of course it is, because one is trying to be silent, and one is looking for a result. So if one wants the result of silent meditation, then one has to do the work and sit for a few seconds, let thoughts pass, watch, silently observe, and increase the time of your sitting little by little until one is familiar with what it means, or one is familiar with the experience of resonating without wanting or needing to be anything else, which is realization, basically. But what is it that we're realizing when we sit, for example, in silent awareness, or when we are engaging silent observation, or inquiry, or devotion toward a teacher or an auspicious spiritual being? It's another good question. So the true inquiry for me would be to not let anything pass through the imaginary mind. There is no mind, just thoughts, which don't belong to anyone, including the spiritual ones. It's just a collective conscious kind of exchange of ideas that we either accept or reject, or we don't approach them at all, or we just don't give them any attention. So what is to be gained when we are identifying with, for example, stopping, seeing, being, in order to get there or to be there? You can't get there from here. And if everything is originating from the silent awareness, then that is what it is as well. So all of the insight that comes from silent awareness, or even the blissful experience, or the sense of well-being and peace, the sense of the experience of true nature, is only an experience. It's only a passing phenomenon that we are labeling and wanting to keep. And when it's already gone, for example. So, for example, let's talk about sitting in silent sitting forgetting, howsoever one wants to label it. Once we do that, then what? You see? And who's doing it? To be something, or even to just be, to say just be is ridiculous in a sense, when just being is what it is. So that could be anything, actually. And the wonderful thing about it, about the whole trip, is, for me, is the cosmic giggle in the end. And the certainty that all of this is just, it is not me or I that sees, but that there's just seeing. There's just consciousness functioning perfectly according to the reaction of its own self, meeting its own self, speaking to its own self, sharing its own self, discovering its own self. And mind is just a small part of that vastness, in that it is an interpreting machine. It's a wonderful tool, but it's still not real. It's just a collection of thoughts that we can't hold them in our hands. They have no tangibility other than the strict belief that we put into them, and the intensity behind the thought energy that goes into creating or manifesting whatsoever it is that one believes one is or wants to be. So there's confounding, the simplicity of it is so confounding that the mind can't even go there. And we are identifying with our mind, so we never go there, because you can't get there from here. It's already here. And what is it? Well, it's everything. And the minute it becomes something, it's nothing. It's already gone. So nothing happens. So what is the point behind being silent? Why be silent? Enjoy life. Enjoy the noise. Respond. there's no one doing it but mind. If there's someone doing it, it's the idea of someone doing it. The idea of sitting, forgetting, sitting in silence is a mind-construed thing. It's still mind-construed. The idea of identifying with the highest, with the I am, or with the sense of being, is still, it can still be trouble, and that it's creating a subtle separation with the beingness and the idea wrapping itself around what that means, what that is. I think we've pretty much covered enough for this evening. So why is it that I have trouble with being silent? Because you can't be silent. As long as one has to be something to enjoy what is here, what they are already, then there's going to be a little bit of working something out. There's going to be a little bit of conflict resolution. And there's actually nothing wrong with that either. It happens. It's a part of the brilliant, meticulous functioning, and I say the natural functioning of the consciousness itself that is encoded in every particle of existence. We are only responding, and even if a thought appears in the consciousness, it's just a thought appearing in consciousness and conscious awareness, which of course does not belong to anyone, even the highest and the most auspicious spiritual words ever said. They don't belong to the one saying. They belong to the consciousness itself. And we're just sharing. Hopefully with joy and a caring heart, which does not need definition. It's already there. And these kinds of thoughts are only triggers in the biological consciousness for the blissful experiences, for example, or the feelings, the feeling of suffering. Any emotion arising from a thought is similarly mind-construed, in that it's just a reaction of the memory in the brain triggering a synapse, a nervous system reaction into the body. Of course, the body doesn't know the difference between the time of the memory and so on and so forth. So a lot of spirituality can be simplified by understanding the conscious functioning of the organism, for example. And that a lot of times we imagine that we've had a great insight, for example, and that insight is only because of an emotion that we have. For example, I've always liked to explain it as a breaking open of the heart, where there's this sort of explosion inside and you feel like you got it, and you feel like, oh wow, this is it. And the minute that we don't just let that be and let that happen and let that pass and just move on, the moment we want to keep that and resurrect that, we've already created a split in the self. Of course, we know that the split is imaginary, but not to the mind. and it's very subtle. It can be a very subtle thing, but not because it's difficult and hard to understand. Um, true, true being, or the pointers toward true being, but because of the confounding simplicity of do nothing, resonate, be silent, stay quiet, and let the functioning happen. Big love to all. Namaste.